Dear students, I welcome you to the online classes organized by ISP. Dear students, this is our lecture number 13 on the subject of critical discourse analysis. Dear students, I want to remind you in order to connect our present lecture to whatever we have gone through, that we are now in a very critical phase of the component of our course, as this is the phase where we are into the practical aspect of our component, and this is significant because at the end of the day we have to analyze the discourse and we have to use some methods, some models, some tools in order to analyze the discourse. Dear students, we have already gone through a lot of tools like conversational analysis and speech act theory and the principle of conversation. These are also the tools. But as we have been mentioning throughout the study, that CDA is not a fixed kind of approach or methodology, but it has so many dimensions and it has so many perspectives that perhaps these 17 to 18 lectures are not enough to cover the whole of the field of all the assumptions, all the perspectives. So we are trying to focus those areas which are primary areas for the analysis of discourse. Dear students, right from previous 2 to 3 lectures, I have been saying it time and again now that this is the practical phase of our component of course, and one should be focused, one should be attentive, because this is a kind of very basic training that we are trying to have in order to analyze the discourse. Dear students, in the continuity of the same practical approach and in the continuity of the same practical perspective of our component of course, now after studying the role of grammar in the analysis of discourse, how different grammatical structures play their part, and how we can make use of our grammatical knowledge for the analysis of discourse. Dear students, we had gone through phrases, types of phrases, then subject, predicate, sentence, and finally clauses. All these grammatical tools play their part in the analysis of discourse, not only in the building of the discourse but also in the analysis of discourse. So the people who are building these discourses, whether it is a newspaper discourse or the literary discourse or religious discourse, they use these practical or these grammatical constructions in order to build the discourse. These are the blocks and the bricks that they use in order to build discourse. And we as the analysts then, we also focus these bricks and blocks in order to analyze the discourse. So today, we are going to study another tool, or actually it is a toolkit for discourse analysis. Dear students, this toolkit is also very important in the analysis of discourse, as these are simple 25 to 26 tools that we can apply, and the analysis of discourse become easier for us. This toolkit was suggested by James Paul-G, one of the discourse practitioner and a very famous discourse analyst, and it would help us if we keep in mind these tools. It would help us for the analysis of discourse. So let us have a look on the outlines of today's lecture. There is a brief introduction of a toolkit for discourse analysis suggested by James Paul-G. Then we are going to study three tools today. The first tool that we are going to study is dialectics. The second one is fill-in tool. And the third one is making strange tool. So these are the three tools that we are going to study today. And in order to study what these tools are, or what do these tools mean, first we will also look on some examples, and after studying these tools we will try to apply these tools so that you may have a practical knowledge to apply these tools for the analysis of discourse. Dear students, this is a toolkit for discourse analysis, and it was suggested by James Paul-G. These are some tools for the analysis of discourse. G has suggested these tools in his seminal book, How to Do Discourse Analysis, a toolkit, and it was published in 2010 on discourse analysis. So this is a very famous book, and all the people who are interested in discourse analysis, they normally have the knowledge and familiarity with this book, because it suggests you a very easy way. And how James Paul-G has written this book, and how he has taken examples for each tool, and how he has elaborated and explained each tool is marvelous. These tools suggest and cover a wide range for the analysis of discourse, as I have already mentioned. These are 26 tools, but these cover a very wide range, and perhaps James Paul-G has tried to cover each and every area for the analysis of discourse. Now, these tools give us a sound foundation for the analysis of discourse. Means this is just foundation, and if we have a good foundation, we know that the rest of the job becomes easier. So it will provide us a very good foundation how to begin and how to start the analysis of discourse. But we know that this is not the end of the world. It is very vast field, very comprehensive kind of field. And just if we keep these six tools in our pocket and we claim, we are trying to claim that this would make us an expert of the analysis of discourse, it would be a very sweeping kind of statement, I would say. This is just the foundation, and we have to build up on this foundation, and we have to study other methods and other models of the other discourse practitioners in order to make and get some expertise in this field. Now, this is tool number one, and tool number one is dialectics. Now, what are dialectics? First, we must know, and a dialectics of the words whose reference must be determined from the context. So these are the words we take help of the context in order to know and determine their meaning. And I, me, you, then he, him, these are pronouns we know, she, her, we, us, they, them, then with respect to place, here, there, this, that, then with respect to time, now, then, yesterday, today. These are all, and many more, of course, are dialectics. Now, these are also called shifters, as their reference shifts with each context. We know that their reference and sometimes their meaning shifts with the change of context. So we also call these words as shifters. Not only these, that is pronouns, and we have some shifters with respect to place and time, but the definite article in English, that is the, functions like a dialectic, but the indefinite article, we have two indefinite articles, a and an, does not have such a dialectic function. So definite article can also function like a dialectic. Now, how we will use these dialectics in the analysis of discourse? For any communication, if you have a piece of communication, a stretch of language before you for the analysis, ask how dialectics are being used to tie what is said to context and to make assumptions about what listeners already know or can figure out. So you have to ask these questions. When you are face to face with a stretch of language for analysis, then you should ask what and how these dialectics are being used, and how these are tying that stretch of language together, and how can we judge their meaning through the context. And we will also have to make assumption through the study of these dialectics, that what kind of knowledge they give and how much knowledge is known by the listeners already. Similarly, we consider the definite article thought in the same way. Also ask what dialectic-like properties any regular words are taking on in context. As I have mentioned, that these are whatever the list that I have provided. These are not. This is not the comprehensive list of all the dialectics used in the English language. But sometimes there are some regular words, and they are playing the role of dialectic in the stretch of language. We have to be very careful in pointing out those dialectics as well. So, also ask what dialectic-like properties any regular words are taking on in context. That is, what aspects of their specific meaning need to be filled in from context. So sometimes regular words also act as dialectics, and by the use of context, we try to judge their meaning. Now, here is an example, and I hope it would make many things clear about dialectics. So I have written a passage, a very small 2 lines or 3 lines passage. Yesterday, Miss Sabah, who is our coordinator here, called me. We have a call from head office, and there is this piece of language, or this stretch of language continues. But here, what we have to note in these 2 lines, we have already mentioned, and we now know what dialectics are. There are some dialectics consisting of pronouns, and there are dialectics with respect to place, with respect to time. Now, yesterday, and you can see that I have underlined those words which are acting as dialectics. Here, yesterday, then Miss Sabah, who is our coordinator here with respect to place. So here is also a dialectic. Called me. Me is pronoun and it is a dialectic. Then we have a call from head office and so on. We is also acting as dialectic. So in these 2 lines, we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 dialectics. These words are making this stretch of language understandable for us. So how they are making, how they are playing their role in order to make this stretch of language understandable. Yesterday gives us some specificity about time, that whatever is being written or is being said, it is about yesterday. It happened yesterday. Now, Miss Sabah, who is our coordinator here, so here gives us the sense of place. It means there might be some organization, it might be a college, a university, or some business organization, and Miss Sabah is working as coordinator in that organization. Called me. Now, who is me? Me is the person who is making this statement. So it means that this is a kind of statement from a person, that is me, and the person is giving us an information about Miss Sabah, and she's a coordinator there. And then we have this is something in direct speech, in quotations. We have a call from head office. So Miss Sabah, who is coordinator, she has called on the person, that is me, and what she said to phone, we have a call from head office. Now this is the stretch of language that we are trying to analyze. Now, the dialectic we is very significant here. We have just noted 4 dialectics here. We are focusing we. Now, how is it significant? What does it stand for? The first question. Because there is conversation between 2 persons, Miss Sabah and the person who is the hearer or the listener, and who is stating who is making this statement. So there are 2 persons involved. But Miss Sabah is saying to that person, we have a call from. It means that she does not. She is not saying I have a call from head office. She is saying we have a call from head office. So we stand for. What's its implication when you are not using I? Miss Sabah is not using I, but she has used we, and this is in direct speech. We are quoting the actual words of Miss Sabah. So what's its implication? Why is she using we? Is it the speaker? That is the person who is reporter. Both the persons in the conversation, we might stand for both the persons. Does it mean the whole organization? So here, if we look at this stretch of language, it is stating that Miss Sabah has made a telephone call to the person or to the reporter of this stretch of language, and she said, "We have a call from head office." It means that Miss Sabah does not want to assert herself. Number one. Secondly, when we use this plural pronoun, first person pronoun we try to include other persons in our conversation. What we are trying to state, we try to include other persons as well. And it might stand for the whole organization. It might become more representative. It might stand for two persons, more than two persons, and even it might stand for the whole organization. It means that when we say we have a call from head office, means the person who is reporter, he or she is trying to include all the people into that whatever they have received from head office. So we is very important here because for example, when some person is reporting something, for example, there is the manager of some organization and he or she is delivering a speech and he says or she says, "We have done a great progress, we have achieved this and that." It means he or she is trying to include all the workers of the organization in those achievements. But if he or she says, "I have done such and such, and I have achieved such and such," it means that the person is excluding the other people and he or she believes that whatever has been achieved, it is his or her achievement only. So we is a kind of dialectic that is being used, even singular person or the single person use the pronoun we, and it gives a sense of inclusion to all the people involved in that process. So this is our tool number one, and our tool number one is the role of dialectics in the analysis of discourse. Now, tool number two, fill into. Now, what is fill into? For any communication, ask based on what was said and the context in which it was said. So, these are the two questions you must ask for any communication. Number one, what is the base of what was said? And whatever has been said, what's its context? What needs to be filled in here to achieve clarity? So there might be some stretch of language. You have to put something from your side in order to achieve clarity. You have to fill those gaps left out by the writer or the speaker in order to achieve clarity. What is not being said overtly, clearly, but is still assumed to be known or inferable? There might be some information that has not been provided explicitly, openly, but it has been supposed or assumed that the listeners or the audience already know something about that information. Now we have taken another example. Actually, we have extended the same example further. Yesterday, Miss Sabha, who is our coordinator here, called me. We have a call from head office that Professor Sarah wants to engage the class as she is doing research into low-caste history and so on. So you know that the first stretch is of same that we have seen in the last while studying the first two, that is dialectics. But we have extended it further and call from head office that Professor Sarah wants to engage the class as she is doing research into low-caste history. Now, so there is some more information we have in this example, and what the telephone call from the head office says that Professor Sarah is going to visit the class, which means that the organization was a school or college or might be university. And what is the object and purpose of Professor Sarah? She is doing research into low-caste history, and in connection with that research, she wants to meet the class or engage the class. Now, how we will use the fill-in? Number one, why does the speaker use Miss Sabha for one woman and Professor Sarah for the other? Now, this is the difference, because what we were looking at, the speaker says that Miss Sabha, who is coordinator here, the speaker says Miss Sabha, who is coordinator here. Then, when we move forward, for another woman, he or she is using the word Professor Sarah. So why he or she is using Miss Sabha for one person, Professor Sarah for other? One thing or one point is clear that the person, namely Sarah, is professor. But why Miss Sabha and there only Sarah? Why not Professor Miss Sarah? Or why not Professor Miss Sarah? So why is this difference? We have to fill into, we have to make guess, and be bold in making guess while you are analyzing the discourse, because these guesses will provide you some way out. Now, second, why is the conversation on the telephone has been in quotation instead of its summary? So we might, because the reporter might report it by making the summary of what has been said on telephone, why the actual words are being quoted. Then, what does low caste indicate? Because we have seen that this Professor Sarah wants to engage the class as she is doing research into low caste history. Is there any person belonging to low caste? We have 2 or 3 persons involved here, like the reporter or the speaker, and then Miss Sabha, and then now Professor Sarah, and there would be whole class that Professor Sarah is going to engage. So there might be some person belonging to low caste. Is the speaker angry, perturbed, or something else? You have to also look at this. You have to fill in this tool, and you have to, while using this tool, you might see whatever we have seen in this example, whether the speaker or the reporter is disturbed or angry, he or she might be feeling something else. Now, you have to use fill-in tool to make guess about the answer of these questions. Now, why does the speaker use Miss Sabha? Actually, the speaker is indicating that a Miss Sabha or Sabha is she is a single person, means unmarried. And even this indicates the marital status of Sabha. But on the other hand, for Sarah, the speaker has chosen to keep silent or quiet, whereas the marital status of Sarah is concerned. Now, the conversation has been reported in direct speech or within quotations, and it is using the actual words of Miss Sabah. It means that the speaker wants to make us see what actually Miss Sabah said. Because in summary, there might be some changes, might be addition or might be subtraction. But when you quote the actual words of the speaker, then there is no scope of the addition or subtraction. Whatever you have learned, whatever you have heard, you are quoting it further. Now, low-caste. This is a very important word because when in America, when you say that there is research into black history, that is something taboo. Similarly, when in Pakistan, in our environment, you say that somebody is going to have research into low-caste, it is also something that is very significant and that makes us alert. So if one of these, that is Ms. Sabar, Professor Sara, or somebody in the class belongs to low-caste, then there could be some problem in this research. And perhaps, whatever we can guess, the speaker, to me, the speaker looks a bit disturbed. So now you can see that we are using this fill-in tool and we are making guesses in order to find the answer of these questions. Let us move to tool number 3, that is making strange tool. So what is making strange? For any communication, try to act as if you are an outsider. Ask yourself, what would someone find strange here if she does not share the knowledge of the insiders? So you may see here that in order to analyze discourse, you have to pose yourself. You have to act something that you are actually not. If you are aware and familiar with some detail of the event, just come out of that event and stand outside of the event and look at the event from the outside. Because when sometimes you act as insider, there are so many details that you cannot detect or you may ignore because you think that these details are already known, and you suppose that if you know about these details, it means that the other people also know about these details. So you miss and ignore these details. But as soon as you jump out of the circle, you become an outsider, then these details become clear to you. And when you become a stranger for that event or for that circle, then you can detect and discover some new details about that event as well. Now, here again we have taken an example, and this is a stretch of language that I have taken from the editorial of the newspaper Dawn of just 17th of July. The allegation against the media is patently untrue, a red herring meant to deflect from what has been a fiasco ever since Aviation Minister Ghulam Sarwar Khan made this shocking claim on the floor of the National Assembly. Now, I have taken the reference that I have copied it from Dawn of 17th July. But let us remove this reference, ignore this reference. Now, as soon as you would have read this passage, you might have awareness that this is a kind of news that we are listening to all through all the channels, through print media nowadays. Whatever our aviation minister Ghulam Sarwar Khan, he has made a statement about the licenses of PIA pilots, that most of these licenses are fake. So this is something that we know as insider. We belong to Pakistan. This is Pakistan International Airlines, and we know much and more about it. So we are inside. But let us come out of this circle and act that you know nothing about it. Then there would be some question when you will jump out of this circle. You will become a stranger to all this episode, to all this event. Then you will see that there are many questions that may come into your mind. And what are those questions that may come in your mind? Why is the first sentence making such a strong claim? The first sentence is that the allegation against the media is patently untrue. It means, then the second one, let us first look at these questions that may come into our mind. Who could be the writer of such a claim? That is the first sentence. What's the problem between the minister and the Civil Aviation Authority, CAA? What is the claim of the minister? Why does he make this claim? What does the language of the passage indicate? So these might be the questions that may come into our mind when we will come out of this event or this news, and we would become stranger or outsiders. Now, look at these questions one by one. Why the first sentence making such a strong claim? The first sentence is making such a strong claim, patently untrue. It's a very strong claim about media because this editorial has been written by a media person working in a newspaper. So naturally, the person has tried to make this claim in order to prove that media is innocent. Who could be the writer of? Naturally, I have already pointed out that such a strong claim might be made by a person who is an insider, who is himself or herself a media person. Now, what's the problem between? Because the minister is claiming that the licenses of the pilots are fake, and Civil Aviation Authority is claiming that these licenses are genuine. So it means that there is some problem, and the minister and the Civil Aviation Authority are not on the same page. So there is some, when you will come out, you will look at this problem in a very neutral manner. What is the claim of the minister? You will naturally, you are an outsider. We know about that claim as insider, but let us look at this claim from the outside. And the claim of the minister was or is that most of the licenses of Pakistani pilots are fake. So he is a minister. Why does he make this claim? The one guess might be, as an outsider, that he is not satisfied with the performance of the pilots. Number one. Secondly, perhaps he has discovered something that is making him claims that is making him to have such kind of claim. So there might be other guesses as well. What does the language of the passage? If you look at the language, it is very strong kind of language. For example, patently untrue, then a red herring for the in order to divert your attention from the fiasco. Very strong kind of language, and this language indicates that the speaker or the writer wants to convince through his or her arguments that whatever he or she is writing is true. So that is a very brief kind of use of making strain tool. Now, we are aware about most of the detail of this piece of news, but we have to become an outsider, analyze the discourse. Dear students, we have gone through the 3 tools of this toolkit provided to us by James Podge. It is very interesting because when we look at each tool and we try to use that tool for the analysis of the discourse, we get a kind of training for this analysis. We will continue with these tools in our next lecture as well. That's all from my side for today. Stay safe, stay blessed.